Tonight's show is dedicated in memory of John Motson, who passed away on Thursday. Arguably the voice of football for nearly 50 years, Motson brought passion and insight to describing the beautiful game for those watching from afar. For Seb and I, growing up at the dawn of the Premier League era through the 90s into the noughties, we were blessed to have Motty and BBC colleague Barry Davies each adding their own distinctive take on this new era of the English game every week on Match of the Day. But if that Barry Davies was the poet, John Motson was the statistician, so it feels only right that here on this show, we pay tribute to John Motson in particular, a show that seeks to emulate the great man's attention to detail. A man, of course, with many links to Ipswich Town and the wider Suffolk area. So for your enjoyment, here's Motty summing up of arguably our club's greatest ever achievement.
Flag is up for offside against Brazil, and Ipswich win the UEFA Cup on an aggregate of 5-4. After a thrilling second leg here, which AZ won on the night 4-2. Fans from Suffolk are able now to celebrate at the end of this dramatic season for their club. Nick Mills has just played his 667th senior match for Ipswich Town, and his reward for that unstinting service is the UEFA Cup. The reward for his team's enduring efforts this season.
Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast discussing Ipswich Town up or down since 2015. I'm Rich Woodard, and this is the Prematch show brought to you in partnership with our friends at the Greyhound Pub in Ipswich. We're available every week on YouTube video and podcast audio. And joining me as always, we haven't had a week off in ages, have we, Seb? Seb Brown, how you doing, mate?
Consistent. Yeah, no, I'm all right. I'm good, thank you, mate. It's nice. The evenings are getting lighter. Ipswich battered somebody at the weekend and we'll hopefully do the same thing this weekend. So, yeah, things are good.
Fingers crossed. John Motson, sad news. Any particular commentary memories or moments you can recall?
Like you said, the soundtrack to for me specifically, the 2000-2001 season. In my household, my folks didn't have Sky at that time. They didn't get Sky for a few years later. So the football content was ITV Champions League in midweek with Clive Tilsley, but Match of the Day on a Saturday night with Barry Davies, John Motson. That was my soundtrack to that amazing season when we finished fifth. I always remember the Arsenal game at Portman Road fairly early on in the season when Stewart kind of scores off his shoulder and Naylor misses a couple of sitters, and yeah, Motson gets all excited, and he's just an absolute legend. I remember the England game, the 5-1, when Michael Owen scored a hat-trick. We did that one, obviously, and I used, from school, I used to go and work at BBC Radio Suffolk on the sports desk and was involved in some of the commentary stuff there, and it was all because of the likes of John Motson. To me, these people were heroes. They were absolutely top-class professionals, and really, really, really sad.
One of the great commentary moments as well from more recent times for ITFC in Europe as well, which is kind of poignant given the commentary we played, was the Marcus Stewart dink at Helsingborg. I remember that one. You wouldn't be aware of that one because you bunked off school to be able to travel out there and watch it. We can talk about that now, can't we?
I think the statute
no repercussions
expired.
Now.
Yeah, I was off school for it, and I was caught out because ITV panned to the crowd after one of the goals, and I'm stood there, applauding. I had to go and answer some questions it was a Thursday night, so it must have been the Monday morning. I had to go and answer some questions as to why I wasn't where I said I'd been off sick or whatever it was at the time. So yeah.
BBC, but yeah, BBC Two, I think it was, but
that was it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to go on a bit of a rant, but certainly a lot of the new ilk of commentary isn't really for me. No, but
Davis and Motson are just in a complete league of their own. I'm a big fan of Clive Tilsley, but those two are just the absolute top elite level, aren't they, of commentators? And of course, he bought shares in the club as well. Back in 2003, I think it was December time, 2003, we were doing the share issue, and Motson bought shares in there. So, like you said, links to Suffolk more generally, just the football commentary, and yeah, elite level commentator who will be really, really sadly missed.
Yeah, let's move things on and talk things ITFC. FA Youth Cup, Seb, the run ends at, I think it's the quarterfinal stage or just before the quarterfinal stage, defeat in extra time to West Ham, down to 10 men for most of the game. But I'll be honest, I thought the scoreline was certainly flat as West Ham.
Yeah.
I was not impressed given Category 1. I think Joe was with us watching it, and he's the Yoda of the academy, and was saying you can't really read a huge amount into certain score lines prior to games because teams are rotated and might be involved in under 21s and so on. But the under 18s, notionally, whoever they are, it's going to be similar. Tonked Norwich 6-0 at the weekend before playing us. So you were kind of thinking, well, we've had a great run, and we need to put a good account of ourselves and maybe try and hold out for as long as we can. And we took the lead. Great goal, Finn Barbrook. But yeah, Callum Logan's red card just changed as a game, Seb. But lots to be proud of from that team. And yeah, definitely.
That's the word, isn't it? Pride is the word. I couldn't watch it. I was working late last night, so I couldn't watch it. So I caught up on all the social media stuff afterwards, and pride is the the overall kind of emotion to feel after that, because like you say, a Category 1 side who they're going good guns in their respective league, aren't they? They should be, they should be battering us, especially when we go down to 10 men. But we stick in there, and yeah, it's been an absolutely brilliant run again. And yeah, you can be nothing but proud about that. If you have to go out of a cup, 2 late goals for West Ham, obviously in extra time, which kind of makes the scoreline look better than it was, like you say, it did flatter them. And yeah, absolutely superb from the youths yet again in the FA Youth Cup. A brilliant performance. Who are the standout? You went to the 2 home games, obviously. Who were the standout
3
players for you across the 3? Was Morgan one of them, I assume? Valentine? Who were the standout ones for you?
The Barbrook twins. I think Finn and Harry. I think it is. Harry was injured, but Finn was excellent. And yeah, Nico Valentine had some good moments as well.
Yeah, Morgan.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of nastiness about him, and there's definitely a lot of needle between him and the left back, the number 3, and the Cobbold stand got involved in that. But yeah, interesting to see David Moyes there last night. Kevin Nolan was there as well. We were fortunate to be in the director's box as academy sponsors. And
I saw you got papped by Ross from Kings Langley. So you were papped and made famous. The 4 of you sat in a line.
But lots of the senior team there as well. So yeah, really lots to be proud of. And as for West Ham, it's clearly a talented squad there. They had better strength and depth on their bench than we were able to call upon. But they're really, given that they played the game 2/3 of the game with a 1-man advantage, they really didn't impose themselves on us. And it was just tiredness and being stretched that kind of screwed us over, really. But yeah, another run in the cup. Lots to be proud of, and yeah, hopefully some opportunities in the summer for some of these players to stake a claim in the reserves and maybe even the senior team. So you never know, you might see them at a pre-season friendly in the summer. Talking about sponsorship, we are sponsoring ITFC women's game against Watford on Sunday. So do get down to the AGL Arena and join us for that. We're sponsoring it with our pre-match show partners, the Greyhound. I'm looking forward to that. Quick turnaround between 2 fixtures with Watford. They snuck a last-minute equaliser, probably fair on blue-tinted spectacles. And analysing it, I think it was on the balance of play was probably a fair outcome, but lots of confidence to take from that. Well, Watford have definitely been on a good run. 3 wins on the bounce. 3rd in the league now, having caught up their games in hand on us and beat Portsmouth midweek, who had been the informed team. So certainly a big game on Saturday, and it'd be great to have plenty of people in the AGL Arena making plenty of noise, getting behind the team. New signing, Holly Turner's joined from Billericay, which will be interesting given we play Billericay next week, and Zoe Barrett has left, and we wish her all the best. Her move to MK Dons, but yeah, it's interesting time. So 6 out of 9 games at home for the rest of the season's got to make home a fortress, haven't we? And hope
absolutely,
for the best.
Yeah. Get down there if you can and make it, really a great atmosphere for the ladies. It's, it's we know about the structure of the league and the need for, revamping it with the promotion system and stuff. So only one can go up. So it's always going to be tough compared to other leagues. But fingers crossed, yeah, they can do the best. And like you said, a bit of chance to get some revenge against Watford, some quick revenge against them for that kind of last minute, equaliser a few weeks ago.
And worth checking out the pre-match show special that we did with Lucy O'Brien, as sponsored by Friends of Blue Monday, Sophie Peskett and Kieran Stanley from the media team there as well. About 25 minutes, not too long, but some really fascinating insights about how they approach the game, the mindset, looking at Watford, looking ahead for the rest of the season. So do check that out. We've linked to it. We'll tweet it again. So please give the women's team your support. And if you can get down to the AGL Arena, either on Sunday or before the end of the season, please do, because it's a great day out and a team playing the game the right way. Similar kind of manner to the academy side. Lots to be proud of there. So please give the team your support. We've mentioned MK Dons very briefly there in relation to Zoe Barrett, but that's our focus, as always, Seb, for this week. The next opponents for the men's team. And yeah, wow. Do you want to talk to us about MK? It's not been...
It's not been going well, is
chalk
it?
and cheese this season and last, isn't it?
I remember on the pre-season preview show that we did with Gab Sutton. I mean, Gab tipped them to win the league with 100 points, and that's probably mathematically out of the question now. But I remember sitting there, and I think I compared them to us in 2005. You know, we lose to West Ham for the second year, and we lose Ben and Coochie and Tommy Miller and Kelvin Davis, and we kind of don't really reinvest the Ben or the Davis money and try and do things, without reinvesting properly. And it does catch up with you, and that to me is what it kind of looks like this season. It's just not going well for them at all. They're currently sat 22nd in the league. They dropped down one place after the midweek fixtures. 29 points, played 32 games, only won 8, drawn 5, lost 19, scored 30 goals, conceded 51. So yeah, they are really, really struggling so far this year. The last 5 games going into this one is not great. 3 defeats, 1 win that was against Forest Green, I think, and 1 draw. And in the last 2 games, fair enough, they have played Bolton and Wednesday in the last 2 games, but they've shipped 10 goals. It was 5-0 to Bolton, 5-2 away at Sheffield Wednesday. And yeah, their confidence must be absolutely rock bottom. And in previous years, we would have sat here and said, oh no, along come Ipswich, but not this year because things are different. This is going to be the second game of our amazing winning run, and we should be looking to take advantage because their home form is absolutely awful.
Not a happy home life.
No, bottom of the league. 10 points from 16 games, 0.63 points per game. They've only won 2 at Stadium MK all season, drawn 4 and lost 10. 1 win in the last 6 games at home. So we need to go there and really, really put them to the sword. And I assume, given how they currently are, an early goal and they will just probably crumble a la Forest Green last week. So yeah, a real opportunity given a couple of the fixtures that our rivals have got this weekend to start clawing back some points on the top 2.
Yeah, worst home record in the league. Worth pausing on that stat or that fact, and it's worth the context for that for me for this home record, and it's made even more stark based on the numbers that will travel from Ipswich, from Suffolk, or from all around the country in a blue shirt on Saturday. We will factually outnumber the home support, but it's likely that happened last season, and it's probably happened quite a few times this season as well. It doesn't feel like the MK Don Stadium is a fortress particularly, is it? And I guess if you're always outnumbered, outsung by the opposition, then it's not going to feel like a home stadium, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, I've not been there myself, but obviously it's this big modern new stadium. And well, I think on their website today, they've advertised it as a blockbuster crowd of 12,000 people. And we know we've got, nearly 7,000? Is it 6,500, 6,800?
Probably loads in home end as well.
Yeah, so yeah, like you say, we're going to outnumber them. And yeah, it must be difficult to kind of go somewhere where I know they've been there for 20 years now, but they've still got a load of issues from the past and stuff that they might struggle to develop a generation of fans and stuff. And it must be difficult when you go in places and you get the likes of us, Sheffield Wednesday, some of the really big boys in the league turning up and outnumbering you. It must be relatively kind of depressing for the players.
Yeah, we talked about that defeat to Sheffield Wednesday. A strange game, really. And we were one of those moments where you're kind of looking at the scores on your phone during a Town game and going, oh.
You didn't think they'd hang on, did you?
No. I said to the guy next to me when they were 2-1 up, they'll win 4-2. And yeah, I was 1 goal out. But yeah, maybe some stuff to give MK Dons fans confidence. Some good goals scored in that game. Lecco and Easter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But the game went to script after that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, so they lose 5-2, 1-0 up after 2 minutes. Great goal. I think it was Lecco. Bit more direct, kind of a long ball forward, and Wednesday sort of back off, and he just hits it. It's a great strike into the top corner, and then 2-1 up at half time, which is when we would have seen the scores on our phones, and some people might have got excited. I think if I could have got signal last week in Portman Road, I'd probably lumped on for Wednesday to come back in the second half because I couldn't see that one lasting at all. And as the script says, Wednesday, piled on in the second half and really re-upped the game. They scored 3 goals, one lucky deflection, one was a penalty. I think Bayer's got a nice one as well. But yeah, only 36 possession for MK, a side that we traditionally know from last year as being a very high possession kind of side. Only 6 shots, 2 on target. In the second half, Wednesday had 11 shots, 5 on target. So they just completely upped their game after half time. And the manager had some harsh words to say after that. We'll discuss him in a minute. He had some harsh words to say about that collapse in the second half.
Yeah, they were unfortunate. The penalty is dodgy, although they have got something about penalties, haven't they? I think they've conceded them most in the league. We'll talk about the stats later on.
There's a deflection for Smith's goal as well, isn't there? That kind of,
and there's a push in the back for the third goal. So they're a bit unfortunate there, but
it's a sign of a side.
It's just relentless, isn't it? From Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah. Once Wednesday make it kind of 2-2, you know what's going to happen because these players, their heads are going to drop, and you know what's going to happen. That's a sign of a side in real trouble, isn't it?
Talking about being papped in corporate, talk to us about your experience for the 3-0 win against MK in the summer.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, we were in the posh bits, weren't we? On that blazing hot day. Do you remember how warm it was that day? Yeah, we were in
wasn't working.
It wasn't, was it?
First world problems, man.
Yeah, we were underneath, right in the corner of the South Stand, underneath where the away fans are in Portman Road, and it was a lovely, comprehensive 3-0 win, wasn't it? Burns, Harness, and Chaplin with the goals. I remember Danassian sort of engaged prime Cafu mode and was cutting in, tricking people, and pulling back for goals and stuff. And yeah, 63% possession, 18 shots, 9 on target. That must have been the 3rd game of the season, I think it was. And yeah, I remember they played Dean Lewington at left back and Wes Burns. They kind of played a back 3 and he was the left-sided centre-back. And I remember Burns just tearing him apart. So, yeah, a really, really comprehensive, easy victory.
And we need to say thank you to our mate Matthew, who he treated us to that. I'm not sure he ever listens, but if he's listening, there you go, Matt. There's a shout-out for you. Let's remind ourselves, obviously, that they had definitely a tricky start to the season, and all of us were thinking, well, Liam Manning knows what he's doing. He's a very highly rated coach. There are still some good quality players, albeit probably not replaced with as good a quality as they had and had sold. But that last season, Seb, I mean, they were essentially at this point last year, we were basically the same. They were the same as where we are now, 3rd, just below Rotherham and Wigan. And ultimately, they got 89 points. It was a sterling season, Bowler.
Yep, 89 points, finishing 3rd and missed out, which hopefully we won't be saying in 3 months' time or whatever it is. They lose to Wickham. Wickham finished 6th. They lose to Wickham in the playoffs, 2-0 defeat at Adams Park. They got just schooled and beaten up by Wickham in that game, didn't they? And they win the home leg. They win 1-0, but they can't get the equaliser, and it's Wickham who go off to face Sunderland at Wembley, and that sees the breakup of the side. Like I said earlier, comparing it to us against West Ham in 2005, Scott Twine, who got 20 goals, 13 assists, goes to Burnley. Not obviously pulled up any trees there, but he goes off to Burnley. Harry Darling, 7 goals from centre back, goes to Swansea. Troy Parrott is recalled by Spurs and ends up going to he's at Preston, I think, this year, isn't he? He had 9 goals and 6 assists. So they suddenly lose. Matt Riley goes in the middle of the season as well. They lose a load of goals, experience, assists from the side, and they don't really replace it properly, and that's why they found themselves where they are. But yeah, we were, Liam Manning was appointed on the eve of the season, really, wasn't he? Russell Martin goes off to Swansea. Liam Manning comes in, and yeah, we were all singing his praises for the entire season, because what a phenomenal job he did in that first season in English football management. And yeah, we kind of thought they'd push on again this year. I think Gab tipped them for the league, you tipped them for the playoffs. I had them just outside, I think 7th or 8th, and none of us could have possibly predicted what was going to happen this year to them.
Yeah, it's a weird one, that one, isn't it? But it comes down to investment, doesn't it? If you don't replace what you sell, then you just slowly deteriorate, don't you? And it doesn't appear there's a conveyor belt.
But again, that's a bit surprising, because the CEO there, Ryan Sweeting, isn't it? Is very highly thought of. And I presumed at some point, getting towards the end of the window, I mean, they got, was it 5 million for Twine? I think it was in the end. I kind of assumed they would go out and just start spending the cash, but I don't know whether they struggle to attract people.
I mean, I think that's probably, it goes similar thought that I had to the home situation and the fact that they maybe feel like they're not the home team at home. If you're a up and coming talent in League One or Championship and you've got a choice of clubs, I mean, you probably,
it's a hard sell, isn't it?
In the summer, you're probably thinking, wow, Liam Manning's done great, I want to go there. But they've just lost, Twine, Darling, Parrott, O'Reilly. It could be that I become the next big man, but maybe you go there thinking, well, if I do well, I'll be sold and get a big move up the league. But similarly, you kind of think, well, I want to be in a team that is doing stuff, is going places, has got a big support behind it. And if you've got a choice of Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, Derby, Bolton, Barnsley, are you going to go to Milton Keynes? I'm not sure. And maybe that's a factor. Maybe they are struggling to attract the high level talent that is likely to be going to the big six teams in League One. It's a challenge for them. But that 0-0 game last season as well, just thinking back to that, and 7,000 Town fans, pretty even game, 3rd versus 9th at the time. And
and it was about this time of year, wasn't it? It was kind of February time, and we started to hope we could claw back space on the top 6, and 0-0 draw. I think Walter made a really good save from Twine right towards the end, didn't he? I think, if I remember rightly, Jackson kind of led the line and we edged slightly closer to the playoffs. But as we know how it all petered out, we couldn't quite close that gap. But it was an even game. It was an entertaining 0-0. I remember that. You can see some 0-0s that are just turgid. But I remember thinking it was a decent 0-0 in terms of the quality on show.
Liam Manning leaves 11th of December with MK 23rd.
Was that a surprise to you? Did you think it was a trust the process kind of job? And even if they go down, they'll rebuild and come back. Were you surprised when he actually got the bullet? No. I think as every month goes past, they were 23rd when he was sacked, by the way. 15 points from 20 games and 6 points from safety as well. December time, you've got to act, haven't you? Yeah. I think they were. I just think some clubs, if you're kind of if the manager is so crucial to, I guess a bit like we had when McCarthy was here. If the manager's kind of so responsible for such an impactful playing style, I'm surprised. Is he though? Because Manning inherited from Russell Martin, and Russell Martin put the foundations in, didn't he? The players were already there, so. I'm really sympathetic for Liam Manning because it's a really difficult situation to be in. But I kind of think there's if you want to survive in the division, it's not working, is it? By that point when he's sacked. Fair enough. They were only they were kept off the bottom, courtesy of scoring 3 more goals than Morecambe. That was it. Yeah. So I think alarm bells have been ringing. And I think to your question, you kind of get through August and think, oh crap, man, this doesn't look good. But trust the process, and then September comes on and you think, oh crap, man, this has not got any better. He's had 5 months essentially by the time you get to December. Is it 4 or 5 months? Yeah. I think that's more than 3 strikes and you're out, isn't it? To me, yeah, potentially. I guess maybe. I was surprised by the replacement. We'll discuss, talk to us about him. Yeah, Mark Jackson, 45-year-old, joins from Leeds. He's kind of progressed through the Leeds. He kind of progresses through the under-23, under-21s, and he becomes a first-team coach at Leeds under Jesse March last kind of February, March time when he joined the club. And I was a bit surprised by that appointment. I kind of thought they might go down the kind of experienced head just to get them out of this mess, and then maybe look to kind of regroup in the summer. Jackson's a one-time Leeds defender. Like I said, he came through the coaching at various different stages there. Best known for his playing spell at Scunthorpe from sort of 2000 to 2005. Spells at Kidderminster, Rochdale, Farsley Celtic and Farsley. So, never played at a really kind of elite high level. But he's managed 11 games since he took over. They've won 3, drawn 2. So he's had a bit of an impact. They have lost 6, but 1 point per game, which probably across the season is just about to keep you up, isn't it, in the Championship, in League One. If you finish with kind of 46, 47 points, you probably just about kind of scrape survival. So I guess he's made a bit of an impact there, but I was a bit surprised they didn't go for a kind of wily, experienced kind of person, to try and get them out of this mess, and then maybe look to reset a little bit in the summer. Give me a name. Who would you have gone for? I was thinking of some. Mick was out of work at the time, I guess. Maybe was still available? You could go Warnock. You might struggle to get them down at that level, to be honest. Lambert, if he still lives in the area, maybe might fancy the gig. But yeah, just somebody who's kind of schooled at this level and knows what it takes to make you tough to beat, to grind out results and just get you over the line, and then a kind of a short-term deal, and then start the rebuild next summer. Where if you want to implement new playing styles, you've got a whole pre-season to work with, and a transfer window to really bring in the kind of players that you need to fit your system and philosophy.
And to be fair, I was speaking to a MK Dons fan that I know on Twitter, a guy called Jonathan, about this situation. And Mark Jackson's very much from the school of Bielsa in terms of the way that he wants to play. High intensity, high press, 4-3-3. Maybe this is a part of the dysfunction that we're seeing. You can't flick your fingers and go from the kind of more patient possession-based style that they have done. And to an extent, there was some high press in the way they were playing, but this is kind of up and at them, kind of more direct way of playing. You can't flick your fingers and change that style. So
no, that takes a pre-season of fitness, doesn't it? And do you remember when Bielsa was linked with the Everton job, and the Athletic reported that he said, I can't get the players to do what I want to do in this period of time, so I'll take the under-21s or the under-23s at Everton until the summer, and then in the summer I'll hit the first team squad and we'll really look to implement these measures. Because changing that kind of philosophy, you like you say, you can't just click your fingers and do it. That's a proper 6 to 8 week, grueling fitness regime to make sure that you're physically able to do the things that are being asked of you.
And they've not been helped by injuries. I think there was quite a few square pegs in round holes when we played them in August, but they've done some recruitment in January, but largely to shore up some of the issues they've got. I mean, defence, it's a catalogue of injury situations. Talk us through the key bits of January business. We mentioned one of them in Jonathan Lecco, but some other names that might be familiar to people as well, I think.
Yeah, Sully Kaikai's coming on a free from Wickham. Lecco, we mentioned, they're the two wide options in the three behind the striker. Anthony Stewart, who we all know from his time at Wickham, a huge kind of central defender, very experienced at this level. He moved up to Aberdeen in the summer. For whatever reason, it's not worked out there, and he joined on loan, but promptly picked up an injury pretty quickly, so he won't be featuring. Max Dean's come in from Leeds. I guess that's a tie-up with the manager's exposition to try and get some goals up front. Paris Mogma has come in from Brentford, the Brentford B side. Why are you looking at me weird? Mogma? That's the one. Coming on loan from Brentford B, central midfielder who's looking.
It's been a while since we've had to do one of those.
It's because I practice throughout the week all the time. I just make sure I write them on the script phonetically, and then Magoma.
Yep.
Louis Barry has left. He was, for the second season in a row, he's had his loan spell cut short. He's now gone to Salford. And they had a few kind of development loans out of younger players to lower leagues. But there's no names really jumping out there. I guess Anthony Stewart was the one you'd look to bring in to really shore up that defence, to add some experience, to add a bit of dressing room presence, to add a player who knows what it's like when the going gets tough and how to grind out results. But he picks up an injury straight away, and as a result, they kind of left with this same back four that's kind of been struggling most of the season.
And it appears Louis Barry, Magoma, the guy from Brentford, Daniel Oyegoke, who I practiced that one in the summer.
That's why I left it off the script.
It feels like MK, it's kind of similar to the criticism that we sometimes get, but when we lose games or aren't winning games, that we're kind of it's a purist way of trying to get out of League One. And maybe this is a criticism of Sweeting of the kind of, Stewart is definitely, Lecco Kaikai. I mean, the senior players they're bringing in is definitely to address some inexperience and bring in some characters. But there's a lot of loans, like Louis Barry. I kind of feel like it's a Football Manager type loan, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it looks good on paper, but the track record suggests it's a bit of a gamble. And I don't know, maybe Jackson, given the summer, if he can keep them up, maybe there's an evolution there that happens, and it's a different way of dealing with things. And maybe they've decided that's the way they're going to go, move away from the possession-based style, because it hasn't worked for them, I guess. Being blunt.
But when you lose players of the caliber they've lost, it must be so
makes
hard.
Makes it much more difficult, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair point. Talk to us about the style of play then, and the formations and key players and how it all fits together.
So he's kind of flirted between a few formations. He's gone 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 and 3-4-3, but the last 4 games have pretty consistently been a 4-2-3-1, and the heat maps do reflect that as well. So I guess that's what they've kind of been wedded to. Now, obviously, like we said earlier, they have shipped 10 goals in the last 2 games playing 4-2-3-1. So maybe on Saturday we might see it more of a 4-3-3 with kind of, a 3-man central midfield just to try and tighten up a little bit and change things round. Your mate who you caught up with said they've kind of evolved to a high pressing style, Alabi also, like we've already said. And like we said earlier, that requires, those kind of implementations require proper time and effort. So I'm not entirely sure it'll be smooth sailing full on the weekend. Hopefully, like Forest Green, if we can score early or get the first goal, hopefully their heads will drop, because the confidence and the familiarity in the system just simply isn't there at the moment.
And to be fair to them, if they were to do the front three, there is pace there if you want to press from the front. It'll be Kai, Leko and Issa, won't it? And all of them are quite direct, fast-running, powerful forwards. So on paper, that is probably good enough to beat most teams at this level, kind of from halfway downwards, isn't it? I mean, maybe a bit higher than that as well. Maybe I'm doing a disservice. So you can see that there are aspects of the selection in the squad and the formation that lends itself to what Jackson's trying to do. But maybe when you drill into the further back into the team, it maybe isn't quite there for the rest of it. But talk to us about where the goals have come from the team, because they are limited, aren't they, in that respect?
Yeah. The 3 top scorers are on 5 each. Mo Issa, who we just discussed, who's likely to be the central striker. He was out injured, I remember, quite a lot of last season, and kind of Scott Twine, Troy Parrott take the headlines. But he's a decent player. He joined from Peterborough, or have I imagined that? Yeah. He'll be the central striker. He's got 5. Bradley Johnson, you can still find him. He must be 36, 37 35. Now. Yeah, former nemesis of our games against Norwich in the playoffs. He's got 5, as has Will Grigg, who, again, you can still find. He was on loan last year from Sunderland, and they kind of signed him permanently after a loan spell after Sunderland released him. They've only got 5 each. Isa's got 3 assists. So he's kind of one of the key creative bodies as well. So like you say, with Leko, Isa, and the guy Kai, yeah, you're looking at 3 very athletic, kind of direct players who will look to kind of run and keep the fullbacks penned back.
There's quality in the midfield. You mentioned Johnson, 21 starts, but doesn't typically make it through the game these days. But probably the key man, and I think he's been shoved higher up the pitch, isn't he? Josh McEachran, possibly a familiar name.
Yeah, it's one of the changes in. Yeah, the 4-2-3-1, he's pushed Josh McEachran into the number 10 role. And on the heat map, he does kind of stay pretty firmly in that position. But again, on Saturday, we might see him drop back. He tends to be Bradley Johnson and the chap on loan from Brentford, who I'm not going to pronounce again because Mick at me. That's the one. They're the kind of the base, and McEachran kind of pushes forward. And I'd kind of forgotten about his pedigree. He comes through the Chelsea Academy, he goes to Brentford. He's got a great kind of, schooling in the game. He's 83% passing accuracy so far this season, 1.3 key passes per game. He's a great player, but like you say, he does struggle for minutes a little bit. I think he very rarely manages past 70 minutes in a game. So again, if you're trying to look to play that high intensity, high pressing football, having somebody that's blowing 70 minutes without a really good replacement on the bench is going to suffer you. But he's come through, certainly come through very good academies at youth level, and is a decent player who maybe kind of should have done better with the talent he has. Yeah,
29, but averages about 22 games a season. So it's one maybe not necessarily to hang your hat on in case he has an injury, similar to Lee Evans in that respect. The back line feels there's not a huge amount of choice for them at the back line. Jamie Cummings back there on loan from Chelsea, I think. Tanai Watson, Jack Tucker, Zach Jules, Daniel Harvey. I think that's all they've got, Seb, because another name that might be familiar to folk, Dean Lewington, who I think might have been the caretaker before they appointed Mark Jackson, and others are all injured. Talk to us about the injury situation they've got in the back line.
Dean Lewington tore his hamstring back in November. Club legend Dean Lewington, over 870 appearances for MK and over 900 in total because he started at AFC Wimbledon. Anthony Stewart, obviously, like we said, joined from Aberdeen in the window and promptly gets injured days after joining, so he's out as well. Warren O'Hara broke his foot in a draw against Lincoln. He was second for accurate passes per 90. So that's a big loss as well. So yeah, the defence has been absolutely decimated, which again explains, why they are shipping 10 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, Warren O'Hara, second for accurate passes in the whole of the division per 90. So, and ironically, Lee Evans, top spot, O'Hara, second spot, Luke Wolfen in the third spot for that. So, in terms of playing out for the back, and he was obviously a key part of that under Manning, that's a big loss. And yeah, quality player to boot as well. But just injuries are a real problem there.
Yeah, decimated. I mean, they haven't got the biggest squad in the world anyway. So, as we see with the kind of the smaller sides in this league, a few injuries and you're really, really down to the bare bones, aren't you?
So let's look at the stats further, Seb, because it doesn't lead it to too many more conclusions than we can glean from looking at the league table. Attacking stats, a bit terrible at home, isn't it?
It's a car crash, isn't it? Yeah, 11 goals scored at home at Stadium MK, which is the joint worst in the league. Only 7 from open play. 4 have come from set pieces. 9 goals were scored under Liam Manning up until he left in December. 2 goals since Jackson's taken over. They average 11 shots per game, which is 19th worst in the league, and only kind of just over 3 on target, which is 22nd in the league. So they simply don't score enough goals. I keep going back to it. If you lose Twine, Darling and Parrott, who contributed 35 odd goals between them last season, and don't replace them, this is where you end up.
And the XG doesn't really tell so much difference either. That's pretty lousy. But then the possession, Seb, is kind of, I guess, where you'd expect MK to be. I did do my usual analysis pre and post managerial change, and actually of late from the games. I did it kind of 4 games last time, didn't it? You've got, how much is it? 59% possession on average for the whole season at home. And overall, that's dropped home and away down to 49% now. I don't know if that's a deliberate strategy or not. It's obviously Sheffield Wednesday and Bolton in there, but maybe there's a drift away from the possession-based style. But passing accuracy is pretty good. But then we come back to the defensive stats, Seb. Talk to us about that.
Again, a car crash. A side that doesn't score enough goals and is awful at the back. They've only kept 2 clean sheets at home all season. That's 22nd in the league. Jackson's first 2 games was amongst that. A 17.4 aerial duels won, which is 22nd in the league. I guess Anthony Stewart was probably bought in to help kind of, resolve those kind of issues. But with his injury, obviously, he's not been able to contribute. They've conceded 6 from set pieces. Obviously, we are the set piece kings so far this season in the division. So hopefully that's a route of opportunity for us at the weekend. And 6 from penalties at home as well, which is by far the worst in the league. 8 penalties conceded overall and 6 at Stadium MK. So, yeah, they're kind of compounding their own misery by making silly mistakes. Bradley Johnson, I think, is culpable for a few of them. And they are, if you're struggling, legs have gone, I guess. If you're struggling to score goals and keep clean sheets, then you should definitely be getting involved, kicking away silly ones.
And they don't make enough tackles. They don't make enough interceptions, and expected goals against also not particularly good as well. So not a happy home life, I think, is what we sum it up as. And
it's like Forest Green last week, isn't it? I feel like we're sat here 7 days down the line, and it's just the away version of Forest Green. All the stats point to a side that's in real trouble, that doesn't score enough goals, that concedes way more than they should, that are struggling, maybe under a new manager to kind of change things up a little bit, and hopefully another 4-0 victory incoming. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, on that note, we'll be back after this to talk about us.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
So what are you doing, Seb, about our team? Are you making changes?
What would I do? Or
what would you do?
Yeah,
I'm putting a question on you.
Keep it the same. I wouldn't change it personally. I mean, the midweek games are dropping off now. I know we've got Accrington for the rearranged FA Cup game in 2 weeks' time, 10 days' time, is it? And then over Easter, there'll be a quick turnaround between the Good Friday and the Easter Monday games. But apart from that, it's pretty much just weekends between now and the end of the season, isn't it? So I would look to build consistency. You called it correctly last week when you said the 3 big money summer signings need to come in, and I think they need to stay in now for me. I think he might make a couple of changes because that just tends to be what we kind of do. I think the striker might swap out, and I think Luongo might potentially come in after his decent cameo. It might be an easy chance to get some minutes into him with games against Bolton and Barnsley on the horizon, and that suspension still hanging over Morsey. But apart from that, I hope now for the rest of the season, gone are the days of 4 or 5 changes every single time we line up. Hopefully we get that consistent. Broadhead for me has to start. Chaplin for me has to start every game between now and the end of the season. And let's get some real consistency going into either a fight for the automatics or a playoff campaign. Would you change anything after last weekend? It's hard to see how you would, isn't it?
I think Hurst Ladapo is probably the question mark. Givenhurst, I'm not sure did too much, particularly second half, unlucky in the first. That's the only thing, that question marks I'd have. I agree on Luongo. But I'd worry that, well, I guess it's, do you start him or do you bring him on is the kind of question.
Yeah.
Humphreys is probably more of an attacking threat, but Luongo was getting box to box, wasn't he, against Forest Green? If he's fully fit, I'd love to see him start, but I'd also be conscious that we don't want to rush him back either. So I think probably those are the only areas, and then McKenna will throw a curveball, won't he? But it'd be funny if Tyrese John Jules or Panucci Camara's on the bench. We've heard. Do you want to chuck one of your sayings in, because we have heard
bodies back on the grass? They're all closing in now, aren't they? Yeah, Kamara did the tweet saying, was it good things come to those who are patient or something? Yeah, implying he's back imminently. Did McKenna say that John Jules would have trained this week if he hadn't been ill with the flu or whatever? And Don Ball is closing in as well. So these bodies are coming back, and some of them back on the grass tick. So what would you?
Has McKenna come out and said it as well? Because that's another tick.
Oh, is it? Is that my third bingo? Is it? If you're playing pre-match show bingo, they're the ticks to go for. He mispronounces the name. Back on the grass, bodies, and
full
McKenna
house, mate.
Come
full
out
house.
With,
Bingo.
What would you do with Burns? Interesting one, because him and Clark weren't really at it last weekend, and Jackson looked good again when he came. Is at it one as well? Is it? Is that
no? Sorry, just makes me think of Gareth Keenan. Keep going. Yeah,
looking sat right there.
Don't repeat it.
So what would you do with Burns? Would you look to make a change and maybe give Jackson a game, given how Burns hasn't seemed quite on it this last few weeks?
At it, I would keep that pair the same. If Burns is fully fit, they've got to figure each other out. I think, as we were talking about on the Flagship, Clark was pinging the balls in, and I'm not sure Burns is used to that. I think he needs to get used to that, because I think it's a really useful weapon to get us up the pitch really quickly, to get him behind. I would keep Burns in that position, because he's a threat and he creates goals, either scores them or creates assists. But I'd be willing to give Jackson half an hour. And if Jackson comes on and makes an impact, I mean, do you remember last season, Jackson started at MK and everyone was up in arms about it?
He was the main striker, wasn't he? Yeah, we sort of saw the Bash brothers with Norwood and Bond, didn't we, up until that point? And then suddenly out of nowhere, I think Jackson comes in, leads the line, and he made the shirt his own up until he pulled his hamstring. Was it Plymouth at home? I think he pulled his hamstring and was done for the season, wasn't he? So yeah, he came out of nowhere and did really well. So
maybe that will happen. But I think generally consistency, as you say, is key. So
yeah, keep it the same. Are you in agreement with me that Broadhead and Chaplin, if they're fit, should pretty much start every game now? Yeah,
100%. And an interesting side note: referee Rebecca Welsh, first time a Town game has been officiated by a female referee. So definitely highly rated referee in the Championship. I think she might have been a fourth official, maybe even the MK Dons game last season. I didn't remember to check that one, but so that will be interesting. Vaguely interesting. It's one of those kind of stats, isn't it, or things to log down in your notebook if you're one of those kind of people. But so yeah, I think that's it. Apart from, let's do some pluggery. This is now the word I've got until I come up with something better. That's the way. That's one of my bingo scores. Is calling that one out. As always, we're in partnership here at the Prematch show with the Greyhound and Innovation Labs. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Greyhound joining us as co-sponsor for ITFC Women's League game against Watford at the AGL Arena on Sunday. Please do get down there if you've got, if you want to get behind the team, have 2 lots of football in 24 hours, and come and support us, come and support the team. That'd be fantastic. Otherwise, head down to the Greyhound at our next home game, and I'm struggling to think what that might be. Burton, I guess, is it in a couple?
Yeah, Burton next Saturday.
As always, Telegram group. Do you want to talk about Telegram, Seb?
Come and get involved. It's brilliant. We have about 6-7 different subgroups in there. It's great. It's a community that's growing. It's so much nicer than the other forms of social media. The debate goes on all day, all night. The match day chat is my favorite. That's when it comes to life. And if you live away from Portman Road like I do, it's great to get that kind of interaction and that experience and those different eyes of what people see on match day compared to how you might see it if you're following on iFollow on the radio. So come along, get involved. 2-week free trial. You won't lose anything. Most people, vast majority of people, tend to stick with it after that. And yeah, come and give it a try.
Flagship show will be back Sunday evening. Ben, Joe and Craig dealing with MK Dons, 8 p.m. live. Get involved in the chats, help us drive the show forward. And if you want to leave us a review, leave us a thumbs up on YouTube. We appreciate that as well. I think, everything you need to know, Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk. I'm giving Seb a little bit of preparation for
that's
the next
isn't it?
segment.
We're going to end the show now. There's no more features to do. There's nothing more to discuss. So we'll end the show there. And thanks very much, everyone.
If only, eh? If only. Pressing the button now, Seb. What a week in predictions. Another brilliant week. Another fantastic week. Everyone loves this feature. It separates the experts from the muggles. Everyone loves it. Let's have a look at the scores. Let's figure out. Hello.
No one cares.
Boom. A big week for the host. Loving that. Both you and I got Derby spot on. Seemed pretty straightforward. All of us. Otherwise, it's not particularly good week for correct outcomes, but Wycombe Bolton. Woody scored 3 points for that one. Let's have a look ahead for this weekend. It's getting interesting now, Seb.
No, it's not. No, you mean the fixture list? So I thought you meant this competition.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't getting... Yeah, this is like...
This is
going to
not
say it's Sheffield Wednesday, but it's more like I'm Burnley and you're Norwich kind of in prediction, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Is that how I'm comparing it?
Yeah, I assume at some point it will become mathematically impossible for me to claw back any ground on you. But yeah, you've got your feature this year. You enjoy it, and then next year we'll come up with something different. And
it's not. Yeah, and it's. Thank you everyone for your feedback on Football Room 101. I think what we'll do is
the people have spoken and they want it back, and you've ignored them.
We'll bring it back before when the predictions is a foregone conclusion. Then we'll do.
All right, so you're going to wait like a manager when a team can't mathematically make the playoffs and they go and fire somebody. You're going to wait until you mathematically can't be caught and then end the feature.
Some
Brilliant.
People unless you want me to keep going for the rest of the season and make my win even more emphatic, I could do that.
I would just bring back Room 101 this week. The people, Seabass mentioned it, Mullet mentioned it. The people want it back, and yet you
give me a third name.
My partner Kim, she wants it back. Clutching at straws here.
We'll bring it. We'll bring it back. Maybe we'll do it a week when maybe Seb and I when I have a week off. You can do Football Room 101. How about that? Let's have a look at this weekend's game, Seb, because there is some intrigue and interest. And as we keep talking about, the run of games for teams right now is quite intriguing, with teams playing each other near the top of the league and us having maybe a more straightforward on paper fixture. Let's have a look. We've got Barnsley Derby right off the top and some nice uniformity with the predictions there. You're not expecting... Well, it'd be good if it was a draw, wouldn't it? Derby,
a draw,
Barnsley?
yeah. I mean, I'm usually of the mindset if there's 3 points up for grabs and one goes into the ether and the points are shared, that's a good thing if you're kind of fighting with other teams at the top of the league. But I think Barnsley will win that one, and we've got them looming on the horizon. Now it's going to be a really tricky game at Oakwell, isn't it?
It is. Bolton, Port Vale, we're not expecting Port Vale to... I think they're on a bit of a bad run, particularly at home.
Yeah.
But away at Bolton, you wouldn't fancy anyone there, including... I'm apprehensive about Bolton away yet again. Sheffield Wednesday at Charlton. Charlton are on a decent bit of form.
But Wednesday are relentless. We've all gone for 1-goal Wednesday wins, haven't we? You and Telegram have gone for 2-1. I've gone 1-0 to Wednesday. We're all thinking a narrow Wednesday win because they are, at this stage, they're just grinding out results, aren't they? Telegram,
aka Paul. That's there's a name for you. He doesn't run Room 101 either. I'm going for Charlton to take the lead and Sheffield Wednesday to score 2 second-half goals to win that one. Peterborough Plymouth, interesting. Whoa, talk to us about your backing Peterborough, Seb.
Yeah, I just think Plymouth potentially maybe they kind of drew 0-0 at home last week. Was it Fleetwood they had at Home Park last weekend? Yeah, they kind of dropped points there. Peterborough, they were doing pretty decent under Ferguson. Their home record was very good, as we discussed on the pre-match show. It was their away form that was shocking. And at some point, if they're going to want to, gate crash 6, they're going to have to start pulling results out of the bag. So I just fancy them to sneak that one very narrowly, but hopefully they will sneak that one and we can start to claw back some ground on second place. But as we all know, I am rubbish at this game. So anything I'm saying now, just disregard.
Yeah, it'll be a 2-2 draw, as I predicted there. Shrewsbury-Wycombe is maybe at the start of the season, you'd have expected one of those teams to be lurking around the playoffs, but not two of them. And I'm backing Shrewsbury, so are you.
Yeah,
is that the
home win,
Gareth Ainsworth effect?
Yeah, potentially. Obviously, Matt Bloomfield's gone in there, but I mean, Shrewsbury won an amazing run of form, weren't they? They lost last. Yeah, was it Accrington? It was a shock defeat as well, wasn't it? It wasn't one that anyone saw coming.
I think it was an unfortunate defeat as well.
So I figured they'll get back on the wagon. I guess, Ainsworth's been at Wycombe for so long. Was it 11, 12 years, was it, or something? When a manager kind of walks out the door, then I would expect a little bit of a drop off maybe as they kind of adjust to a new. Well, then again, Matt Bloomfield obviously was there for so long as well, so potentially it's not like somebody's coming in completely fresh, is it? But I don't know. I just think Shrewsbury narrowly in that one.
Yeah, Shrewsbury won the last 3 home games on the bounce as well, I think. So
they won like 5 or 6 before losing to Accrington last weekend. They were one of the form teams in the division.
What's your take on Bloomfield going to Wycombe? I on paper it makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm not sure necessarily 3-4 months at Colchester's massive grounding for a team that are hunting for championship football.
Maybe not, but he did decently at Cole-U, didn't he? Kind of got them organised and kind of found out how to score goals, which is what they really struggled with. They bought some players in the window who potentially players, didn't they? Yeah, exactly. They did some really good business that potentially kind of raised a few eyebrows. And I guess, they've had Ainsworth for so long, and Bloomfield was there under him as both a player and then, a bit of coaching and stuff. It's a bit of a continuity appointment. He knows the club. He knows what he's doing. I've got no idea how long a deal he's signed there, if it's a long kind of term deal or it's just an 18-month job while they look to kind of steady themselves and move forward. But I guess you don't want to, given the position they're in, closing in on the playoffs, they'll have designs on 6th, won't they? They couldn't afford to leave the vacancy open for that long. And is there really anybody out there? They're not going to be able to go and pay a compensation fee for somebody, are they? Is there anybody kind of out of work that you'd really look to snap up, or would you just go continuity and get it done quickly?
Yeah, when I asked you who would you have, if you were MK and you'd sacked Manning, who would you go for? If you'd flipped the question back on me, I'd have really struggled to answer it as well, because I think the model right now at League One level is buying an up-and-coming coach from a Championship or a Premier League team, isn't it? AKA Kieran McKenna or Scott Brown or Duncan Ferguson. And that feels like the tested path. So, I'm not sure there's a huge amount. There's a long list of candidates that you'd go for if you were Wycombe. So, as I said, it makes sense on paper. Whether Bloomfield's ready for it, I'm sure we'll find out. And
did well at Cole-U though, didn't he? They were in real trouble before he went in, and he kind of stabilised them, and they're now pretty comfortably
really solid away form as well. And given Wycombe excellent at home, they're pretty decent home and away. But if they can grind out some wins away even more, then maybe they can finish even higher than 6th. But it'd be an interesting one there. And worth noting that I think that Gareth Ainsworth and a couple of his backroom team have gone.
Dobson and Hart went as well. Yeah, Hart's like the chief performance analyst, and Dobson's the assistant manager, isn't he, or the assistant first team coach?
Well, and depending on who you believe, Ainsworth, it's like Wizard of Oz. Ainsworth's the heart. He's the passion. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely he's quite a good tactical mind because he speaks really well as a pundit on Sky. But do you say Dobson is the other guy?
Dobson,
well? Is the brains maybe, or has at least got some of the tactical strategy there? So it'd be interesting to see.
And Hart as well.
How they replace that.
He's the head performance analyst.
What's he then?
He's got in the same role, head performance analyst. So he's kind of the one that scouts the opposition.
Stomped all over my joke there, didn't you?
What was your joke?
He's probably the humour.
Oh right, okay.
Oh no! I'm pressing the button. We'll see how we get on next week.
Maybe we haven't predicted our result yet. We haven't done ours.
Well, we know what. All right, are Ipswich going to beat MK Dons?
Oh, we went for the same two. Oh no, Paul went for a MK goal. No.
Yeah, sack Paul for being disloyal and predicting. I was. To be fair, I was thinking that there's always a Bradley Johnson long ranger risk. Yeah, but maybe you'll concede a penalty.
You were pessimistic last week. You went 1-0 at home to Forest Green, didn't you?
But play the game. Play the game. We all got the score wrong, didn't we?
Yeah, but at least
it was either going to be a marginal squeaky bum match or it was going to be a thrashing like Morecambe.
Pessimist.
And I will always, our run hadn't been particularly great, and that was my logic. So you should have gone for the 4-0.
I would never predict that high on this stupid feature.
And then Matt got the best prediction, didn't he, last week? He as our guest. Anyway, let's move on. Given you love this feature, I can't believe we're still talking about it. Let's I distracted us, didn't I, with Bloomfield chat. Let's move it on. Thank you again if you made it this far in the podcast. We appreciate your company. Hopefully plenty of insights there for your trip. The mass migration across to Milton Keynes on Saturday. Let us know you're listening or watching. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a podcast review. Give us a photo to Twitter. We love that kind of stuff. Give you a retweet as well. But appreciate everyone's time. Appreciate the support of the Greyhounds. and Innovation Labs. Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk for all the information you need on social media, on shows. But do come back 8 p.m. on Sunday for the Flagship show, talking all about the match. And I think, Seb, apart from that, I'll hand over to you to say goodbye. Thank you again for all of your hard work too.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Thank you for your research and hosting, less so on the predictions feature. Enjoy it, everyone that's going for the bumper 12,000 crowd. We will be outnumbering them, so let's sing loud, enjoy it, and hopefully we've got game 2 of our 10-game winning run on the horizon. Come on, you Blues.